everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar at Work-Life Balance, Beverly Hills Bar Association. So I'm very glad to start with more tips for your work-life balance. My name is Andreea Șerban. I'm the chair of Work-Life Balance Committee. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys and to share programs that help you to arise and to bring more work-life balance, to bring more balance in your life and to enjoy more your profession. Today, I have a privilege to have a special guest that is going to bring us more tips and some innovation of seeing our approach in our profession and seeing life differently, because when we practice law, we are so absorbed of our profession, but always it's important to do and to think something that is going to bring you more balance in your work and to more energy. So today I have the privilege to introduce you a specialist in clinical Ayurvedic medicine, Jeff Perlman. It's a clinical Ayurvedic and Panchakarma specialist. You're gonna find out later what means all of those names. He's also a massage therapist, and he's also a yoga instructor. He's a certified therapist and also a herbalist. So we are happy to be here and to have here our guest, and I'm gonna turn over to Jeff to tell us how we can bring balance and how we can make our summer spectacular and to enjoy so much this, freedom again and to restore our energy. And so, Jeff, thank you for being here. Appreciate your response to our invitation, and please take over to let us know more about yourself and your tips.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me, Andrea. I'm Jeff Perlman, and I'm a Ayurvedic practitioner, and as Andrea said, registered herbalist. Panchakarma is detoxification system in Ayurveda. I'll explain that to you a little bit. I first started out in school by studying nutrition, and then I went on to the Cordon Bleu and became a professional chef for over 15 years. And unlike lawyers who have very intense work schedules and so forth, I chose a profession where I was, very intense, working anywhere from, 60 to 100 hours every week as a professional chef. And so I understand the tension, the anxiety, the frustration that can happen. And that's why I'm sitting here today, is that I had to make a change in my life because of medical or physical things that happened to me. And I started looking for more holistic ways to find balance in my life. And I found yoga, and then Ayurveda, and then herbalism, yoga therapy, and all of these things, which has helped me to balance my life with Western medicine, but really in a holistic world. And I decided to make this my focus, and I no longer cook professionally anymore. This is what I do. I have a little clinic in Santa Monica. I want to talk to you, since we don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to mention that you're able to submit questions to the chat box, and Andrea then will interrupt me and I'll answer your questions. So feel free to ask whatever questions that you have. Ayurveda is a fairly large subject, so I'm just going to touch on the basics of it.
I want to mention, sorry interrupting you, we have, for lawyers, we have all the materials in the chat, or you can ask question anytime on the chat to ask questions, okay?
So like Andrea said, there are 2 documents that have been uploaded to wherever they're uploaded for you. And the first one's an introduction to Ayurveda. The second one is a copy of some practices I'm going to explain to you, and we can practice together if there's time, that you can actually do at your desk or on your lunch break, or anytime that you feel you need to find some balance in your life. So Ayurveda, like I said, is a very big subject. Ayurveda means the knowledge of life, and it's the original medical system known to man. The difference in Ayurveda then it was first documented in the Vedas, which were the original documents of India 6,800 years ago. And the difference between this medical science and other medical science is that we look to the root cause of an illness and we treat that. It's not that we wouldn't look at symptoms, because we all have symptoms, but really holistically, we want to find what the root cause is and then work on that. So the basis of Ayurveda, so you understand, is it's such an ancient practice. And yoga, the practice of yoga and Ayurveda are sister sciences because they share the same philosophy in India, which is understood by what I'm about to tell you. Back at that time, the way that these things were understood was that there were 5, and you can, if you have this document in front of you, you can I like to call it the cheat sheet. You don't have to have it, but if you had it, you can go along with me here, because it might seem a little complicated. It's really not after you get you understand Ayurveda a little bit. But Ayurveda is understood by there being 5 elements in the universe. The elements are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And they are understood metaphorically. Ether is all of space, and that's the container that holds everything, including that space, but the container of us. And then air is everything that has to do with any kind of movement. Everything, air is required to make any movement. Fire, of course, is heat and flame, but really it is understood as digestion or transformation or metabolicism in the body. So everything, like as you watch me or listen to me, you're transforming information. When you go outside and the sun hits your skin and vitamin D moves into your body, this is a form of transformation. Of course, when we digest foods and when we eat, that's another form of digestion or transformation. The 4th one is, of course, water. Water is all of cohesiveness, what holds us together. And the 5th one is earth. All of these 5 elements have certain qualities that define them. And these are, in Ayurveda, they're known as gunas, but there are 10 opposites that explain these. And the simple ones to understand would be everything is either hot or cold, wet or dry, heavy or light, or mobile and stable. Those, I usually use those as an example because they can relate to the food that we eat, which all of us, of course, are very familiar with. Now, you can define the elements with these gunas or these qualities, and these make the doshas. And I'm sure that many of you have heard of doshas, or you've heard of vata, pitta, and kapha. The doshas in Ayurveda are made up of 2 elements that make each dosha, and these are the biomedical energies that are in each of our bodies. The first one, vata, is air and ether, and that's all of movement that happens. The second one is water and fire. This is called pitta. Pitta is the heat in the body, the transformation in the body. And the last one is kapha. This is water and earth. So that's very heavy and stable and so forth. Now, the key in Ayurveda, if this resonates with you, is that you want to know what your constitution is. We hear that word in holistic medicine a lot. In Ayurveda, the constitution is what your percentages of the doshas are that you were born with. Once you understand that, that is kind of like an Ayurvedic footprint. So, for instance, for me, I'm 65% fire element, I'm 25% air element, and 15% water element or earth element. So I have more of a fiery kind of disposition, where I'm very focused. I'm probably like many lawyers are, or people that are in charge of things or responsible for being very organized or so forth. Each of the doshas, once you understand what your constitution is, then you want to look at how things can become out of balance in Ayurveda. So there's the constitution, and then there is the current state of our health. There's two things that are always looked at. All of us probably know disharmonies we have, whether it could be gas or bloating, constipation, maybe diarrhea or hemorrhoids or rashes on the body, unable to sleep. All of us probably have, well, all of us do have certain things that that we live with. And in Ayurveda, what we want to understand is what has been long-term our constitution, what our footprint is, and then what our out of balances are today. So once you were to understand what your constitution is in Ayurveda, and you can take tests online, the best way is to come to someone like me and get a full evaluation, which is evaluates everything from the physical side, the mental side, the emotional side, and the spiritual side. But the way things become out of balance, so for instance, I told you what my constitution is. Ayurveda believes there are 3 seasons every year, right? So right now on June 20th, we just moved into the summer. So in Ayurveda, the summer is June, July, August, and September. But there's only 3 seasons. So this is the time of Pitta, the fire dosha. So for instance, during this time of year, when there's more heat around us, and if you're more of a heating person, this can elevate your heating qualities in the body, which can bring disharmony. The fall, for instance, is October, November, December, and January. During that time, if you think of, so that's more of a time of Vata. Vata is more of the air energy. It's cooler, it's more unstable in nature. And if you think about the fall, the time of fall or autumn, it has the same qualities as the Vata dosha. The Kapha dosha is February, March, April, and May. And that is the time of more water element, more heavy element because of winter and so forth, and then going into spring. So the idea in Ayurveda is that once you understand your constitution, then you can see how, as the seasons change, or as we eat foods that are not compatible with our constitution, or we have mental, emotional, or spiritual disharmonies that happen to us, these sort of things can draw the doshas out of balance. They can, Ayurveda is understood by like increases like. I'll say that one more time. Like increases like. So during the summer, as it gets hotter, right? And if you're a hot person, it'll increase the dosha. Now, the way that Ayurveda treats people is by using opposite actions. Now, I know that sounds very simple. It does sound so simple. Well, if you feel hot, you make yourself cold. That's in the big picture, that works very well. But you have to understand how all of this affects you, not only from a physical level, right, but an emotional level, a mental level, and a spiritual level. All of these 4 realms are looked at in Ayurveda. Now, the way that Ayurveda, and if you have a question, or if I'm going too fast, we have a limited time, of course, to talk today. Please send in a question, and Andrea can stop me, and we'll answer that.
Jeff, I have a question.
Okay, please.
Tell us a little bit about the summertime and the cold water, if it's good for our body, because I know we have this perception that cold water is going to help us to get cooler, but in Ayurveda, I think it's different. Right.
So we have to remember that Ayurveda is an ancient practice. And there's a lot of rules. My job in the 21st century is to take these old ideas and bring them into our world, and I'll answer that question in a second. But a good example of this is that we all are bombarded by iPhones and computers and information. There's more information coming to us all the time, and this can cause an imbalance, right? So in our world like today, there are basic things that you would do to find balance. Now, as far as the water or the ice, this is from the idea, the basic ideas in Ayurveda. You have a digestive process here. You know, when you eat food, it starts to break down in the mouth and it moves into the stomach where the heat starts and start breaking down. And then we move into the small intestine and to the liver and so forth. This is where the absorption or the transformation happens, right? From this part. And then it moves down lower into our, into the lower part of the body where it's eliminated. Now, the goal in Ayurveda is to keep this warm, because when you have proper digestion, in Ayurveda it's called Agni, then when you eat food, it's moving through the body correctly. So the idea about drinking cold water or eating ice cream or ice or very cold things, it's not that it's not the end of the world, but think about if you throw cold water onto a fire, it will stop your digestion for a while and just everything will just sit there. So in Ayurveda, the idea is to drink more lukewarm water. Also with water, since we're talking about water, if you know your body weight and that's how many ounces, you want to drink half your body weight in ounces every day. So for most of us, that's anywhere from, it's approximately 2 to 3 liters a day or quarts a day. So that's the idea about cold water. Cold water will stop your digestion.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. This is helpful, okay, because I know in the summertime everybody is drinking so much cold water.
There are many practices for the summer. So let me explain to you, once you know your imbalances, once you understand your constitution, and let's say I've already told you that I'm 65% of the fire dosha myself, then what happens is if you know this about yourself, then when you start entering into this season, you can start making corrections. Now, during other seasons, you can also make corrections. Most people that get into Ayurveda, even though some people come that have illnesses and they come more often or they're getting more treatments and so forth, but a lot of people, they like to come and they like to get their full evaluation so they understand their Ayurvedic footprint. And then with that full evaluation, you understand everything that has to do with you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically from the doshic standpoint. Then many people will come back each season to see how to correct themselves for a certain amount of time. So like, for instance, the way that Ayurveda treats people is that the 5 elements are connected to your 5 senses. There are therapies that are attached to the 5 senses. These are called the 5 sense therapies. So for instance, sight, right? A few of them are more ethereal, but look, sight therapy would be like color therapy, right? It would be, well, that's the main one. It would be color therapy, going out into nature, which we all need to do more, all of us, that we're the city dwellers, because that puts us in touch with our true natures. Smell could be cooking, herbs, aromatherapy practice. So I know you all know what essential oils are. This is a very powerful practice and something that would be, I make seasonal or personal aromatherapy mister bottles for many people, including a lot of lawyers, which they keep on their desk, and I make them for the season. So that's a very good thing that you can have handy, right? So the next thing would be taste. Taste is a huge thing. Now, we have to understand that all of those 5 elements that are connected to nature and have these different qualities, these same qualities make up every food, beverage, drug, everything, every spice, every herb that we put on our body. That's why there are certain foods that are better than other foods at certain times or for certain doshas. So part of understanding your, getting your evaluation done is that you get a specific food list for your dosha in that what you'd be, how you treat yourself with which foods and which are the best foods for you.
We have another question, and I want to remain. The question is, what about the hot drinks like coffee and tea, and when you drink something very hot?
So there is nothing that the doshas all have different characteristics. Now, we really don't have time today to go into to go in depth, but vata is air and ether, and they have a tendency to be cold and dry and light in nature. Now, things like caffeine, I know this is a huge subject with people, but caffeine is something that increases dryness, it increases acidity in the body. The heat is good for the heat would ground the body. Now, when you come to pitta, that's more of a fire element. The idea is to drink with pitta. You would want to drink not too much, not too cold or not too hot, right? That's the idea of the energetics. Now, with the kapha dosha, heat is good. Kapha needs more energy because it's very heavy and wet. So that is not a problem. What the energetic of heat though is different. So I hope that answers the question. Did I answer it correctly?
Yes, thank you. So the heat is grounding you, but everything is related to your typology constitution. So you have to know your constitution in order to know what is better for you.
Well, you're sort of shooting in the dark. Most people come to Ayurveda, Andrea, with a digestive issue. We're all used to having, when we say we have gas or we get bloated or we have diarrhea or hemorrhoids or we have mucus in our system, we all kind of understand that these are normal. But the truth is, from a holistic standpoint, they're not normal. So most people come to Ayurveda, and where disease is first shown is in the digestive tract. So like if you're a person that has bloating and gas and is constipated, right? That means that your vata dosha is way out of whack, especially if you have constipation. Now, if you're a pitta person, like myself, and it's summertime and you go out and you're drinking, you're at some, I always like to say, I don't drink anymore, but if I took a bike ride up to Malibu with my friends and sat in a restaurant taking shots of tequila and eating jalapenos and chilies and so forth, I would cause problems for myself, especially being like if you go out in the heat too much, you don't have a hat on or you don't have sunscreen on, you can cause the doshas to come out of balance. So did that answer the question or?
Yes, very much. Thank you. So
okay,
move forward, and because I know we have also some exercises, and I'm excited about it.
I know, I'm just going to mention that if this resonates with your group, in a few weeks, I'm teaching another class on Ayurveda in summer, and they can find that on my website and so forth. So if this feels that if you're not getting a good basis, that one's not going to be as rushed because you guys are on your lunch hour. But to finish what I was saying, the other ways that we treat each other, so it's by sight, smell, taste, touch. So touch, the therapies that have to do with touch would be yoga, pranayama, meditation, massage. In Ayurveda, the movement of massage, it's called Abianga, is the type of massage done in Ayurveda, moves toxins. The belief system is that you want to keep the lymphatic system very healthy, so everything is moving through the system correctly. So touch is a very big one when it comes to massage. The last thing is about hearing. So, and we're going to talk about touch here in a second. We'll just move into, let me just finish this and then we can do a couple of these little practices. So hearing is another thing that's more ethereal. Now, in sense that, if in the beginning of Ayurveda, if you were being treated by what was called a Vidya, which was an Ayurvedic doctor, they would give you a mantra, right? They would give you a certain chanting to do. It's all part of the whole package of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Now, in today's world, when it comes to hearing therapy, some of us listen to certain kinds of music. Some of us find balance in certain artists and so forth. Like for myself, it's George Harrison. His transformation into the spiritual world was amazing to me. Just, it's so fascinating to me. So I find that I can find a sense of spirit with that. So all of these practices, there's many, 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 many practices that can be done. The first thing that's always done in Ayurveda is you deal with the food. You deal with your digestion. Ayurveda has 7 tissues in the body. And it's believed that the first place that disease starts is in the digestive system, and then moves out to the tissues in the body. And this is where disease kind of moves itself out. And for many people, disease will find its home, so to speak. So there's a process, but food is a big thing of how we eat. Our hydration, like we were talking earlier today, having enough water in our bodies is enough. So that's kind of the basis of how Ayurveda works, is that you understand your constitution, you know what your imbalances are, you bring them into balance, and then you find a norm of how to continue. And in Ayurveda, that's called dinacharya. There are different practices, and all of us are doing something right now. It doesn't mean that they have to be some Indian practice, but if you're taking a walk with your girlfriend, on Sundays, or you're a photographer on the weekend, or you have a garden maybe that you play around with. All of these things bring us back to nature, or eating a certain regiment of food during the day, or using oils on the body to bring balance. There are many practices that are done in Ayurveda to find balance. Now, so I would urge anyone that's interested in this to look into having an evaluation. There are other practitioners besides myself out there, but you can find my contact information on these sheets. So why don't we talk for a minute, unless there's another question here. If everyone's game, we'll do a couple little practices today. Yes?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Now, when we talk about meditation, all of us, a lot of people already have a meditation practice, but in Ayurveda, there are basically 3 types of meditation, from the sense of that there are 3 doshas. Now, today I'm going to show you the one that would be most balancing. And when you look at this handout, you're going to have instructions for this. So if you're thinking you need to take notes, you don't have to take notes. The 3 things I'm going to show you here are on this handout that you're going to get. Now we'll talk about meditation first. Meditation can encompass many things, but in Ayurveda, it's like I said, there are 3 meditations, and I'm going to show you the one that's preferable for this season that we're in. And if you want to know the other ones, you can contact me, and I can or you can look on my website, and you can probably find a lot of this stuff. So if you sit comfortably in a chair and then turn your palms out, keep the chest lifted. And if you're in a chair doing this, try to bring the top of the head, the back of the head, which is called the crown of the head, just in line with your tailbone or the back or your sacrum. So your spine is erect. Most of us that are on computers or at our desk, we do this where we come forward and the shoulder blades move out of the back. It's important that when we find a seated position, that the shoulder blades come in and the breastbone lifts. The reason for this is, from a yogic or an Ayurvedic standpoint, is that the main channel in your body that moves energy, which is called prana, is right up your spine. So you want to keep the spine open so all of the energy can affect your nervous system. Now close your eyes Have your palms out. Start to envision that right behind your navel, there's a little singing bowl, maybe as big as your hand. Now imagine that in your two palms, there are two singing bowls. Now start to soften your breathing, attaching the breath to your body. Then on the next inhalation, you're going to breathe into the singing bowl right behind your belly button. The breath will automatically pause itself. This is called kumbhaka, really, where the absorption of the prana comes. And then exhale into the two bowls in your hands. The inhalation moves the breath into the bowl behind the abdomen. Find the natural pause and then exhale into your hands. Why don't we do this just for a couple minutes? I'll time us. On your next inhalation, just open your eyes. So this practice is called empty bowl meditation. This is considered to be the practice for the summertime, or when you're feeling heated in some way because it's more open in nature, meaning that you're inhaling to your one bowl and then out to open hands, so your chest is wide open. The other meditations, one is called Soham, which is more focused on your third eye, and saying a mantra, which makes it more focused. This is good for when there's a lot of air energy. And then the other one is when you're using a candle or a flame in front of you. And this is very heating for the Kapha dosha. So we won't go into these in depth, but just know that you can find more information from me or online about these three meditations. Now, the next thing, as far as, or this is probably the premier practice in my practice. Yoga is, of course, I'm a yoga teacher and a therapist. And so I practice yoga every day, and that's not necessarily required. Yoga can be a tremendous practice because it balances the body, mind, and the spirit. All these practices are based in this. Now, yoga is broken up into 8 different practices, or steps they're called. And one of them is called pranayama. Pranayama and is controlled breathing. It's sometimes called conscious breathing. Now, many times when you do pranayama, you do it lying down, but at your desk, what we would do is I'm going to show you something called 1 + 1 + 1 breath. 1 + 1 + 1 breath. And again, this is all, the instructions are very simple here. So again, you would sit up. This is so nice because this really brings your attention and your focus, especially if you're feeling overworked, or it brings a sense of calmness, a sense of introspection, but you'll experience that for yourself. Now, here, when you inhale physically, the inhalation pushes the diaphragm down in your body, and there's a sense that the breath touches your pelvic floor. That's just the way it works with breathing. Now, at the same time, when you're doing that, there's a sense that the ribs lift and the chest fills up. Now, in a sitting position, what I would tell you to do is we're going to take an inhalation and you'll draw the breath right here to your breastbone. You'll let the breath pause again, and then you'll take a second inhalation to the top of the sternum plate or your collarbones. Here, again, it's not a grip that you make, but it's a pause, momentary pause. So here, the prana is being absorbed more here, and then more here. Now the third, this is 1 + 1 + 1 breath. On the exhalation, you have a long, deep, wide, extended exhalation. 1 + 1 breath, okay? So we'll do a couple rounds of this. Bring yourself into an alignment. You can have your palms down. I prefer my palms up when I sit, because if you notice when your palms are down, your shoulders roll forward. When you bring your palms up, there's a widening that comes in the upper arm near the armpit, and the shoulders roll back. Now, when we do this kind of breathing, you would take a full inhalation, and then on the exhalation, just let your head drop down slightly. This changes our focus. It brings the mind into more of a passive state. You try to keep the sternum plate lifting towards your chin. Start to soften your breath, close the eyes, you're gazing towards your heart. Now take a full inhalation and a full exhalation. At the bottom of that breath, you'll inhale to the breastbone, soft, smooth inhalation. Pause your breath. Now, inhale to your collarbones. Pause your breath. Now, exhale completely. At the bottom of that breath, start the process over. We'll just do this 5 times. Do one more breath. Gently open your eyes. Pranayama, in my opinion, is the most important practice that I do every day, because it brings my focus, my attention, my awareness, my intelligence to my breath. All of us are completely, for let's say the majority of us, are completely unconscious with our breathing. And all of us breathe between 20 and 30,000 times every day. This practice helps us to bring in that attention, that awareness. Now, the third thing that's on this handout I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to tell you a few other things that would be appropriate if we have time, and I think we'll have time. Andrea's going to tell me in a second.
Yes, I have.
Now,
yes, we'll have time.
Okay, so let me just tell you, just so you're clear about what's on your little handout here.
I want to mention something about the breathing, about the pranayama. It's this pranayama. I mean, we also, how magic is this exercise? If we do this exercise between meetings, or when we feel anxiety or a little bit stressed, for lawyers to take few seconds, a minute. Everything changed and it's shifting so much, and the nervous system is so much better, more relaxed. So I want to remind lawyers to really to take in consideration this pranayama and breathing exercise and to practice every day. It's so important, and it's creating like magic when we practice this.
Yes, it is magic. You know, I, like you, of course, I have a little different kind of business than being a lawyer, but I know what it's like to be overwhelmed with work and anxious and on a deadline, and you want to get all this done and you're very focused and so forth. You know, if you came to me for a pranayama class, you know, a private class, what you would do is we would start in a shavasana, like lying down for a couple minutes to let the body settle. And then, not that you have to lie down on your floor in your suits, but you could lie down for a minute, then sit up and do a practice like this, or both of these practices. But then if you lie down afterwards, which is traditionally how you do in pranayama, because this allows the body to take the energy, the awareness, and so forth. I know I'm just picturing Andrea in her office and then lying down on the floor in a beautiful suit that she's wearing. It's not going to happen, but it's so difficult to make time for ourselves. And even though I might be sitting here dressed in a linen shirt from India and linen pants, it's hard for me to do it too. That's why I prepare a practice for myself in the morning, which gets me started. And then, you know, through my teaching and everything else, I have things I do during the day.
But this on the chair, when you are at the desk, you know, at the chair after meeting, sitting, and the thing you said, opening the chest and the direction of the spine, it's so, I mean, everything shifts. It's so important.
Yeah.
Just little posture, the little modification in our posture.
Well, this opens the heart. That's the thing. When you're doing this, you're closing towards your heart. Exactly. And so you're looking for this openness that you can find.
Yeah.
Now, another thing, and this might be a little more ethereal to do, but really a simple thing, is that in Ayurvedic touch therapy, there is something called Marma. Marma are 128 pressure points in the body, which are very similar to acupuncture points. Now, we don't use needles in Ayurveda. If you came for a massage and you said, "Oh, Jeff, I'm having, a diverticulitis," or I can write a sequence of pressure points to use that affect the subtle body. But this Abianga massage basically touches all of these points in the body. Now, if you were to take your hand and open your palm and then place your thumb right in the middle of your palm, your index, middle, and ring finger and little finger on the back of your hand, and then come to the tip of your thumb right in the middle of the palm, and then gently press. Take 5 breaths. So this is the Marma point.
No matter which hand, doesn't matter. I mean, the benefit.
Both sides. You can do it both sides. Herja.
Different benefits?
No. They have the same benefits. This is called the Herja Marma, reduces stress and anxiety. You can do it on both sides or just do one. Now, these are 3 things that you can do at your desk. Like Andrea said, it's important to keep the heart chakra open. This is called Ajna, the chakra of, there's 7 chakras, the energies in the body, energy wheels, but you don't want to close off the heart. Now, Andrea's going to tell me when to stop here. And again, if you have questions about any of these things on this handout, please contact me and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it or email you back about it if it's something doesn't make sense to you.
We have time to put a question in the chat now.
Okay, but I want to tell you some other things that are important here. And this might seem just like a lot, All right. But this is one of the things that happens when you get an evaluation. You get a practice. You get what's called this dinacharya, practices that you can do. Now, the main culprit of maybe lawyers and certain people are very intense, have a lot of anxiety and stress, but this is really caused from the air element. Yes, there's heat involved in all of this, but really it's about managing what's called vata. Vata is the air and ether elements in the body. Air, these are cold, dry, light, and mobile. So if you think of those cold, dry, light, and mobile, one of the most important things to do is to remember that you want to do the opposite of that, right? Warm, wet, heavy, and stable. Now, there's lots of ways to do that. What I just showed you with these 3 little practices are more a pranayama and a meditation and a marma point to touch. But really, one of the most important things to do is to try to eat warm foods. That's really important. A lot of people put medicated oils in their nose. Think about when there's lots of thoughts, lots of movement, when you add wetness and heaviness, which they're called nasi oil, when you add this to your morning practice, this helps to ground the body. When you stay with warmer foods, in theory, this grounds the body. Many people, drink a lot of smoothies or eat power bars and so forth. These create more air energy in the body. They're not full nutrition. Of course, eating the proper foods is really important. Getting enough rest is also, I'm not telling anyone anything that they don't already know. But from an Ayurvedic standpoint, there are certain practices. If you're someone that has irregular elimination, that's a problem. That's a big problem because that holds your toxins in your body. There are certain herbs that are good for that. All of these relate to the summer practices of trying to stay balanced. All of this is finding an even balance with, but I can't be specific unless, I have someone in front of me of what they actually need. Ayurveda is not a generic medical system. If you came to me as a client, we would analyze you and figure out who Andrea is, and then whatever's recommended for you is for your constitution and your imbalances. It's not like just everything's generic, and you can find generic things to do, but that sometimes is not long-term going to help you.
I have a question. This constitution is changing based on the emotional state or based on some events, emotional state? Changing or remains for life? This is considered for life.
So the 2 things, constitution is called prakriti. That doesn't change. Once we establish what your prakriti is, that doesn't change. Like I told you, I'm 65% Pitta, 25% Vata, 15% Kapha. Now what happens though is the other side. What changes is called vikriti. Vikriti are the current state of imbalance. So as the seasons change, right? Or as the foods you eat change, or if you have instability or mental emotional issues going on, these things can bring us out of balance. Also, if you change locations in the world, you're immediately in a different situation. So those are called vikriti, whatever can come out of balance. And then we have to bring them back down. Like when I tell you my constitution, it's not a straight line, right? It's a little graph, and that's my norm. That's for me, my norm. And you have one also, and everyone does.
Oh, thank you. And another question you said about eating warm food. Also, during the summer, we have to eat warm food for grounding, right? So this is part of the daily food. In the morning, lunch, and evening, warm food, or it's more important the lunchtime or evening.
So, of course, midday, in many different belief systems, it's said to eat your largest meal at lunchtime. For many of us, we eat it at dinner time, which makes it harder for the body to digest because it's in a, the doshas have different times of the day that they work stronger. So the Pitta dosha is at from 10 to 2 a.m. and p.m. So it's believed that the best time to eat your larger meal is at lunch. Now, the thing about eating like a salad, there's nothing wrong. The thing is, salads are usually cold. So if you're going to eat a salad, it would be, you do it during lunch. The other thing you can do, this is how you can start to kind of manipulate things a little bit. You can make a warm salad. Now, maybe that's not so easy if you're in an office building somewhere, to do it. But for instance, think about making a salad and then heating some rice or heating some vegetables and tossing it in the salad. So you can actually bring a warmness to it. But for instance, salads are the hardest to digest. It's the hardest thing to digest. That's why, and we don't have time to get into the 6 tastes in food. That's also talked about during evaluations. But that's why the French, for instance, they eat their salad after dinner, right? That's because the salad is the hard part to digest. If you eat it in the beginning of the meal, the body, and then you eat, let's say, a protein or so forth, the body is not working at its best functioning. The truth of the matter is, Andrea, is that, and this is going to sound crazy, is that you really want to eat the sweet taste, which includes desserts, it can include fruits and so forth. You want to eat them separate from other foods or in the beginning of a meal because the body digests that first, right? So I know it sounds silly having your dessert first, but if you ate your dessert, the body digests that carbohydrate. And then when you move on to, let's say, starches or proteins or so forth, then the body can digest that more clearly. But if you eat the dessert after other foods, then the body just moves to digest the sweet and the other food sits in your stomach. Was that too complicated? No?
No, it's perfect.
It's a little education,
But it makes sense.
We all do that.
We want to see the results. It's good to practice and to see how the body change. I mean, the state, it's important to be curious about this and to see the results. But it makes sense.
The truth is that if you came to me and we analyzed when you do these evaluations, you fill out a food journal for 5 days, you fill out all the supplements you're taking and all the medications you're taking, and it's a very full evaluation, and we can find out what the imbalances are because you write yourself out things that are happening to you when you eat certain foods. So it's pretty in-depth, and it's just like, lots of us that have allergies go have allergy tests, and one of the tests with allergies is that you start taking everything away, right? And then you one at a time start adding things back in. It's the same thing with foods, to figure out what is not working for you, what is maybe causing difficulties you're having. And again, last thing I'll say, because we're coming up to the end here, I know, is that the thing about Ayurveda to remember is that it's just not the physical. How does that affect the mental, the emotional, and your spiritual life? It all is this beautiful, beautiful connection.
What I love about Ayurveda, it's exactly is this different approach. I mean, a holistic approach to see everything and to have in your mind everything. And lawyers, they can do that because they have a big capacity of collecting and store, to process information. So it's something for your health, lawyers. Do it.
The last thing I will say is that, this all might sound a little confusing, or maybe there's too many rules and so forth and so on. But that's why once you understand, go through the process of getting your constitution, then you have, and I have, but really you have a better idea of how the energies that surround you and the energies in your body react. And then I might say to you, oh, you should maybe take this herb or drink this tea or eat this or eat that. But the thing is that you have choices there are many choices to be made, and it's just a matter of having this. When I first became a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, I then went into Ayurveda, and I realized that, Ayurveda is the next step. It's just another step of awareness, understanding. It's one thing when you start practicing yoga and you find a balance with that, but then when you start looking at Ayurveda, its sister science, then you start moving more to the physical side of how things are affecting you in nature and your surroundings and so forth.
Yes, I think are more valuable information to know better and better. And I think today it was enough about, we had the practice, we had pranayama and touching or exercises to release anxiety and stress. It was amazing. And I thank you so much for your informations and for your contributions.
Sure.
So if anyone wants to contact you, you put it in your in the material, your contacts, so there we find all the information about your practice. And thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, thank you. It was very nice program. Thank you so much. Thank you, Beverly Hills Bar Association. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody.